Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Reate GTR Integral, clearly inspired by the Nissan Skyline GTR car, right, with all the vents and everything like that. Everybody, including me, we were just not quite sure what to think about this because a lot of the milling and the inlays seem to be almost randomly placed, and I'm really glad that I got an opportunity to handle it, which shout out to eKnives for loaning this to me for review. It's going to go back to eKnives when I'm done, but I'm glad they gave me a chance to handle it because it has grown on me. It is far from a perfect knife, but it has definitely grown on me, and there's a lot of cool things that I want to share with you guys. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. You can buy this knife. I'll link it down below. Check out eKnives, great retailer, but yeah, you can buy it. It comes in a few different configurations. Thanks to my, did I say that? Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. Let's look at specs here real quick. This is a larger knife with an overall length of very close to 9 inches. And a blade length of about 3.8 inches, excuse me, so very close to 4. Very shirogoraphy ratios, right? Cutting edge, 3.6 thanks to a forward choil. We're looking at Bowler M390, hardened to 60 HRC. I think typically Reate is 60 to 61. This is pulled from Knife Center. We have 157 thousandths on the blade stock. And it's heavy, but not insanely heavy, especially considering the fact that it is an integral at 5.4 ounces. So not bad. Pretty interesting. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'm going to get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. So you don't need to take out the inlays, right? And then access to the pivot is actually, that pocket clip screw back there, by the way, is a T8. But I think the pivot screw is going to be a T10, which is pretty cool. Is that the case? No, it's not. Interesting. So what do we actually have there? Reate, do we... I would be weirded out if it was actually a T9. No, it would be a T8 plus. So T8 feels a little floppy in there. Every now and then I come across knives that are T8 plus, but a T8 will work, right? T8 plus probably a little more snug, but pretty simple. And one of the benefits to an integral outside of it just being cool, and if you don't know what I'm saying the frame is milled from a single block of titanium versus 2 pieces with screws and a backspacer or standoffs. One of the benefits of an integral is there's really no major steps to disassembly. You're just taking out the pivot and then the blade comes out. Excuse me. So yeah, that's pretty cool. As long as you have the right tools for the job, should be good to go. There's nothing ultra complicated here. It's just a simple titanium frame lock. So let's go ahead and do some size comparisons up against some knives that it realistically compares to. So it is actually bigger than something like the PM2. We'll put up the pyrite, like the large pyrite. You can see it's even bigger than that. And then we'll do one more here. We'll put it up against the Ontario Rat Model 1. It's a big knife, absolutely. There's no getting around it. It is absolutely on the larger side. So moving on into the actual review here, I'll let you guys take a look at the grading scale and the grades that it can get for the different categories. I will do my best to be as objective as possible in this section, but I am a human being, so I said that is limited. I will afterwards, of course, give my own completely and totally subjective Metal Complex cool factor score and try to separate that and explain, my sort of emotional feelings versus, some of these categories where I'm going to try and be more objective. So starting off with category 1, which is ease of manipulation. There is no double clutch. It runs on bearings. It is ridiculously smooth. This is a Reate, and they have just, they've always been amazing, but I feel like their action in particular has just gotten better. It used to be kind of tight out of the box. This was stupid smooth out of the box. It just feels ridiculously premium. So moving the lock bar out of the way, I really wish they had given us a little bit more access down here. I can get in there and move it. It's just kind of pinchy in here, and there's a little bit of a ledge, right? Not too bad, but no double clutch or anything like that. And the flipper tab is perfect. The detent is wonderful. I'll let you guys take a look at the detent. Really nice, but whether you want to push button it or you want to light switch it, right? If you are you know, a big fan of titanium frame lock flippers running on bearings. This has essentially exactly what you're looking for in the action. The issue here, because we have to look at all of the potential means of manipulation, right? Now, given how high this was cut, I have to assume that they intended for you to be able to use this. Yes, you can ignore it, right? Same for any knife. But it's not the easiest. Like, you can do the reverse flick. You can't quite dig at it. And then these, I'm going to go ahead and say they probably did not intend for you to use these as, you know, means of deployment. I'm going to guess that this was supposed to be like, yeah, you can use it, pinch open it, roll it out, right? But these are external stops only. Kind of like, you know, on the XM18, it's clearly a thumb stud. On the knife that is, you know, a collaboration between the Hinder knives and ZT knives, the ZT-0562, you technically can force it, but it is definitely clearly meant to be specifically external stops and not a means of deployment. That's clearly what's going on here. They made these so small and not textured, they're like, please don't use these as a means of deployment. So, we have a very good means of deployment, a flipper tab. We have subpar access to the lock bar, but not bad. And then kind of a frustrating access to this little opening hole here, which I would have loved if they had just cut these areas right here slightly lower. That would have made that interesting, a little bit more fun there. So for ease of manipulation, I think I was still pretty fair because realistically it is good, right? I mean, if you're going to judge this specifically on the flipper tab, I mean, you can go ahead and in your head, you can give it an A or A minus, whatever you want to give it. That's fine. But all in all, I gave it a B plus for ease of manipulation just because of, you know, the combination of things. So still good. Nothing wrong with that score, right? Still great. Just kind of judge that how you will. Moving on to category 2, which is blade practicality. Pretty straightforward. Reate does a good job here. We have, in this case, a hand rub satin finished M390 blade. Take a look at the plunge grind here. Not bad. I think that's pretty good. You have nice access here, but nice little harpoon notch. Most importantly, we have an edge that comes down to kind of a medium thickness, right? Nothing crazy, nothing really slowing you down from doing your typical knife tasks, right? And we're talking practicality from the perspective of the average person using this as a standard pocket knife and not doing anything ultra specific or ultra professional or extreme with it, just using it as a blade. You have a nice tip. You've got a nice flat grind down to the cutting bevel. You could say, you know, things could get caught up in here, but not really, right? The edge right here, I mean, everything that's up here is going to clear the cutting path. So all in all, I mean, it's pretty practical. It's a little on the thick side at 157 thousandths, but the actual cutting edge is definitely good, and it is heat treated properly, right? The only reason I'm not going to score it higher, I guess, is just because it's just, you know, some people might consider it slightly large for your like normal tasks or a little bit thick, right? But it's still plenty practical. This is a hard one to judge because in order to score super duper high, you know, as objective as I'm trying to be, it's still going to come down to a little bit of subjective reasoning, right? As far as like what's the most practical, because I can only judge on what's the most practical for me. And then like it's also hard to score super low here because you kind of have to intentionally make a super jacked up blade profile that's not going to be good for a whole lot of stuff, or just make an absolutely terrible blade, you know, like be a company that doesn't know what they're doing, right? So all in all, I'm going to give it a good score. I'm going to give it an A minus. I think it just does fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this. Like it's going to do what most people want it to do. It might just be a little big and a little thick to be considered perfect, right? Moving on here to category 3, and that's comfort, and we judge this both in the hand and in the pocket. In the hand, it's pretty good. There's no, you know, there's no like standout hotspots or anything like that. The pocket clip is pretty low profile. Little bit right here, just because it gets so narrow. A little bit sharp right here. Oh boy, the tension on this. Wow. Really got to fight it, right? That's definitely an area that brings the score down a bit because I can't stand having to fight it in and out of the pocket. Now, can I get it in there? Yeah. I mean, actually, let me move my knife out of there, but I'm in just like thin athletic pants. I can get it in there. No problem. Well, a little bit of a problem. The thicker the pant material that you're wearing, the more you're going to have to fight this. It's just not, there's so little bill, and it is so tight. Oh, man. So like actually carrying it, like the amount of space it takes up, not bad. Weight, heavy, right? But not so heavy that I wouldn't carry it. I mean, we're looking at, what is it, 5.4 ounces? Not bad, really. So like the comfort in the hand is good, and the choke up position is also pretty darn comfortable. There's a nice harpoon notch here. Really wish the jimping had extended it out a little bit further, but all in all, it's a comfortable knife outside of a little bit of a sharp spot right here, disengaging the lock. Like it's pretty comfortable to hold, to manipulate, and it carries well, but it's a little bit of a fight to get it into the pocket, right? Unless you're wearing, like, the problem is it's a little too heavy for athletic shorts, athletic pants, but that material fights the clip less, right? So if you're looking at, your cargo shorts, your work pants, your jeans, I feel like that's typically where this knife is going to be carried, and it's definitely going to fight you, right? So judging all of that together, it's not bad. In fact, it's better than okay. I think I'm being more than fair giving it a B-. So I think a lot of people would say, I think you're being a little bit too nice to it, right? We're judging it all together. If I was judging it specifically on how easily it goes into the pocket while wearing jeans, it would score much lower. But we look at this category as a whole bunch of things together, right? And I think that's the way I wanted to do it. That way we're not breaking down these categories into a million subcategories and elongating the review process. So B- in that category, and you can kind of pick apart those little things and judge this how you will. Reliability. It is a Reate frame lock, so it's about as good as it's going to get for a frame lock. I've kind of decided that frame locks, like on their own, frame locks just can't score super duper high unless they are backed up by some other, some other system. There's some other extra thing. We're just talking about a frame lock. The best of the best are not going to score higher than about a B+. And the reason is because they're still heavily reliant on geometry. There are, as good as a frame lock is, because it's a good system, right? If you look at my scale, that's still a good grade. It's a good system. As long as you have perfect geometry, and you got a company that knows what they're doing, it's a plenty reliable lock, but there are definitely more reliable locks out there, locks that would score higher. So like this system is going to be fine, but it is not a system that I would, rely on for any type of extreme use or abuse or anything like that. We shouldn't be using our knives for that anyway. But frame locks do suffer potentially from lock, slip, and geometry issues, especially when pressure is applied to the spine, which should not be the case, but does occur sometimes naturally while you're using the knife. But they have everything that they, should have included here in terms of, quality control, fit and finish, the geometry of the lock face. We can see right here how we're locking up, and we do have that steel lock bar insert. That's great. And there is no blade play up, down, left, or right. So as far as reliability, it's going to score as high as a, just a good titanium frame lock can, and that is a B+. Moving on here to category 5. And that's overall quality. Automatic A. Automatic A. I know a lot of people are like, when are you going to hand out an S? It's got to be ridiculously special to hit that S tier. But I mean, A. That's otherwise as good a score as you can get. It's essentially perfect, right? Doesn't have any specific standout. Oh my gosh, this makes it super unique and super duper special. It's just more of Reate doing Reate, right? So Reate has absolutely excellent fit and finish, and I'm talking about, when we talk about the bevel evenness, we talk about how consistent the finish is, the seating of the hardware. None of the hardware itself has been stripped or anything like that. We have these beautiful areas in here where we have this, like, it's sort of curving upwards towards this center cap here, and we have this nice little highlighting around here, these blue areas. So cool, nice radius. I mean, the styling of it, whether or not you like it, that's completely and totally subjective. But as far as the overall quality, their inlay work, their machining, their ability to execute is essentially flawless. It is so good. The overall quality of this knife is just stupid. And of course, their centering is dead on. There's no like flipper detent lash or anything like that. There's also no lock stick, and there's no pivot lash, and it's also perfectly consistent in here. It's exactly what you want this knife to be. So this gets an A immediately, and so far that's as high a score as I've given out for anything. Very, very good. And then as far as value versus the competition, I'm going to keep beating this point in when we talk about this area. We are not judging this knife up against knife. We are judging it up against its realistic competition. So sometimes people are going to skip to the end of the video and just look at the scorecard and say, he gave this budget knife an A and he gave this super expensive knife an A. Like, this system is meant, you know, there's a little bit of an arbitrary nature to this system, and I'm aware of that, but I want to keep it loose and flexible so that people can kind of bend it and take what they will from it. The whole goal of this system is to make sure that people are getting the information that they need to make an informed decision before they buy something. So you do need to flex these things a little bit towards your own personal desires, your own personal wants and needs when it comes to a knife. The best way to judge value here is versus the competition, not up against knife. If you're looking for knife, just buy a budget knife. I've got a playlist with over 250 videos, right? You don't need to spend more than 30 or 40 bucks on a pocket knife to get a good pocket knife, right? This is definitely got some more special elements to it. It's an integral. It's got zirconium. Well, if you want it, it's got zirconium in it. There's also, you know, this is the blasted titanium. There's also like a more of a concrete working finish titanium. There's also, you know, zircotai if you want it. But this has collector enthusiast elements. It's made out of premium materials. It's an integral. It's got the hand rub satin finish. I mean, people buying this knife are looking for much, much more than just a standard pocket knife. So why compare it specifically with knife? No, we compare it against realistic competition. In this case, very specifically, ultra high-end production Chinese knives that are also integrals, right? So in that category, I would say typically what you're looking at there is right around 400 bucks. There's definitely some companies that have executed well at 350. And then there's some companies who have done some integrals for less, but boy, I mean, like, let's be honest, like, those are basic. Those are insanely basic. This is anything but basic. So I'm using that right around $400 territory. So what does this actually come in at for price? 450 bucks. I gotta be honest with you. I would have expected Reate to charge more for this. Not because they would have been justified, because I just would have expected them to do it. I would have expected them to charge 500 bucks for this. It's not absolutely insanely overcomplicated, right? But you have, in this case, some zirconium. The base versions of these all cost the same, $450. Beautiful machine work on the spine. Very, very unique with the vents back here. Really, really cool, right? The inlay work, a little awkward, a little bit slapped together. Definitely looks like a piece that could have broken off of a Nissan Skyline GTR. A little awkward, but for what they did, the awkwardness was executed well. I mean, it was machined very, very nicely, right? And it definitely does go above what we typically see for about $400 in an integral. It's not perfect, though. And I had a hard one here. I had a hard time with this trying to justify in my mind like where the value was. And I think initially I had given it an A-, and I thought, it's still pretty pricey. It's still 50 bucks over the point where I'm kind of like, yeah, you know, 400 bucks. Like, if this had come in at 400 bucks, I think I would have given it that A-. Had they charged 350 for it or less, you know, it would have been way higher. But I'm gonna give this a B+. It's pretty darn good. That's the top end of good if you go back and look at my grading scale. They did some really, really awesome things here, and there's nothing wrong with the value for what it is. Like, for people that are looking to buy this, they are looking for that super high-end production integral with that Reate quality. And, you know, for what they're gonna pay for it, which is 450 bucks, there are integrals on the market that are executed nearly as well or as well for less, for sure. But, you know, you're still getting a lot of what you're after here. So I kind of wish that this was priced less, but I don't think it's priced awful. Had they got up there to 500, I'd have scored it way lower. But I think giving this a B+ in this category is more than fair. So that's where I'm going to be. And now moving on to the completely and totally subjective part of this review, where I'm just going to tell you what I think, my sort of emotional, subjective reaction to the design here. This is way cooler than I thought it was going to be. But again, you know, this is why we score this completely separately, this category. is because I have bias, when it comes to certain designs. And a lot of that I can't even keep out of the objective part of this review. It's impossible because I'm not a robot. I'm a human, right? But specifically, just like how cool is this? I freaking love integrals, man. I think this is awesome. And, as weird as these little ventilated areas are, I kind of, there's like a fun little charm here. And it does make me remember it, for sure. I don't love how it doesn't really flow. It almost looks like if you didn't know what the blade looks like, you're like, that could look like anything. Who knows, right? You can't really build a picture. Same with the blade. You're like, I have no idea because there's a bunch. You kind of expect the frame to be a little bit less intense. This is just kind of wacky and all over the place, but it is fun. It is unique, and it's definitely cool. Also, just the Reate quality on this is just really, really awesome. And what I do like, taking away from, all the craziness going on here, I do like that Shirogorov ratio, that blade to handle ratio, which you just have a ton of blade. You have that sort of folding steak knife look. I also like harpoons. I also like hand-rubbed satin finish blades, and I also like zirconium, right? So I don't love everything about this knife, but I like it way more than I thought I would, especially the size of it and everything. It's just cool, right? Not my favorite. Definitely not. But it is good. I'm going to give this one a B+ personally. And that's pretty high. It's going to be really difficult for something to score so high that I'm like over the moon about it, right? So you can completely ignore this section of the review, or you can add it in if you value, if you just for some reason base your purchases off specifically what my subjective thoughts on a pocket knife, right? It is very cool. And I would be proud to have this as part of my collection. Not something that I feel like I have to go out and buy right now, but it is good. It is something that potentially I would like to add in the future. So that's going to be it. And now we'll move on to the scorecard. So moving on to the final scorecard, it's like I've said in other previous reviews, if this was my own kid's report card, I'd be happy. I'd be happy with this. Room for improvement, for sure. But as is the case with a lot of the knives that I reviewed, there is room for improvement. There's not, it's next to impossible for something to be legitimately perfect. And I think honestly, looking back at all of the knives I've reviewed, the thousands of knives I reviewed, I'd say a handful of them might have a nearly perfect card. And we're talking A's and S's. I don't know that I've ever reviewed anything that would score S in every single category. So I want to emphasize, despite this not getting the perfect scores, this is still very, very good. There are many knives that I have reviewed that would score far, far worse than this. So this is definitely a good card here. Lots of B's, a couple of A's in there. So take this scorecard and kind of pick it apart and decide what's most important to you. And then I would apply that to your final decision there. But overall, this is good. As far as whether or not I would recommend this to the average person, no. That scorecard is specifically for people already looking into this knife and similar knives to it. The average person, I'll tell you why. Number one, it's a $450 pocket knife. The average person doesn't need that. This is not a knife that the average person needs. It's not a knife that I would recommend to the average person. It is definitely a knife that I would recommend for people looking to buy that cool, weird, ultra high-end production Chinese integral, specifically that. Yeah, a lot of that scorecard, that's what we're looking at there. So that, for you guys, yes. For the vast majority of people, no. It is really cool, though, and I'm teetering on, what playlist I should put it in. I don't think it's quite where I would put it in my favorite knives of all time playlist, but it is really, really cool. I do like it a lot. I'm being honest there. So I think if you decide, if your budget is $450 and you're looking at this like seriously, this is a pretty good option. And again, couple of things in that territory you should be looking out for. But if you come to the conclusion that this is the knife that you want, I don't think that that's the worst use of $450, right? Again, though, for the average person, no, way cheaper, but still really cool. Thanks so much to eKnives for letting me share this with everybody. Check out eKnives. I'll have it linked down in the description. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.